Assalamu alaikum, everybody. So how is everyone doing today? We have something a little bit different in store today. I am doing a little bit of a cook with me story time here, inshallah. Not like I'm any chef in the kitchen, but I just thought it might be fun to show you guys what we have here. So I am making a cheesesteak lasagna rolls. But of course, as you know, a part of my Sultana revival is trying to make healthier choices, which is very tough because I really love food. So this has not been the most fluid of journeys, but I am trying to do something where I don't have to completely change everything that I have been making and that I love, but just try to substitute some healthier recipes. And as I call this, I said cheesesteak, not Philly cheesesteak. So don't come for me in the comments saying this isn't a real cheesesteak, because this is not meant to be a real cheesesteak. This is my version of, something that I think could be a wholesome and semi-healthy recipe. So we have the camel steak, which I've already made into strips. I already cooked them. I pre-cooked them yesterday, but then I didn't want to cook it yesterday, so I just changed those into strips now, and I'll be grilling those in a minute. We have our onions, green peppers, tomatoes. I'm going to put these tomatoes and stew them so that they can become a little bit soft and make their own sauce. And then, as you may have seen, I have the spinach. So yeah, let's get cooking. And as I cook, I'm going to tell you about the moment when a police officer pulled a rifle on me. Stay tuned. Alright, so we're gonna start here with a little tap bit of oil. One thing about camel meat is that it does not necessarily make its own, unless you choose, to mix it with the fat of the camel, which is why a lot of times you'll see, like in Arabic recipes or even some Somali recipes, they'll cook with the hump. And a lot of times the reason for that is because the hump produces, it's mostly fat, and it produces that moisture that a lot of times the camel meat itself may be missing. So because I don't have the fat, I'm adding just a tad bit of oil, but I'm going to actually let all of this food produce its own moisture, its own juices, without really relying on heavy oil. That way we can try to preserve a lot of the carbohydrates found in and chemicals found in seed oils. So the tomatoes is going to do most of this job. And as here we have also a good source of revenue for energy from our capsicum or our green peppers. Our tomatoes, they rejuvenate, especially with blood cells. They rejuvenate for healthy blood flow, and onions as well. The camel meat is very good for protein, and again, it's very lean, which helps. Alright, so I've added in the green peppers and onions. Now I'm just adding in the meat. And I will be adding a little bit of flavor onto that in a minute. Again, just kind of want it to stew very slowly, and I'm going to put it on low heat. So this is what it looks like. Just going to put that on low heat so it can stew. Meanwhile, let's get to talking about our story. This is why we're all here, right? You guys are probably wondering what in the world is happening in another crazy chapter of Halima's life. So basically, I always talk about Somalia. One of the things that I've learned the most in my journey in Somalia has really been anger management, and trying to manage your anger in a way that is both effective without losing your need to actually express what you need to say. This story is one of the few moments when I had to put that to the test yet again. I had to really sort of awakened to the idea of how to actually deal with moments that make me furious without taking it out on the entire country or damning the entire country, just because of the instance of one person. That is still kind of tough to do. Most of you probably recall or know me from my videos about Somali, about Burma, Somaliland, and about the moments that I was escaping from there. If you are not familiar with what I'm talking about, go ahead and check out my book, The Day Little Condors Flew. It is available on Amazon. So many of you know that it is really tough in that kind of situation not to look or not to side-eye the entire culture. But at the same time, you do want to analyze what is right and what's wrong without ignoring the actual fault so that you can know better how to proceed. By the way, the onions are stewing and I can smell it. It smells so amazing. I love the smell. By the way, that's why I kept them in slices, because I really love sliced green peppers and onions. The smell, especially when it cooks down, it becomes a little bit soft, but still have that little bit crisp to it. I love that, and so that's why I kept it in slices. If anyone's wondering why I didn't kind of chop them up instead. So, anyway, my kids are finally going to school. Yay! And alhamdulillah for that. You know, this is a new chapter in our lives. And in all of the excitement, I decided to try and collect, you know, the school supplies and get their uniforms and get their shoes. I've had to go all around my neighborhood to just find some basic shoes that could even fit them. I don't know why that was the hardest thing to find. But, yeah, I had to. So, it's a hot day. I'm sweating. I decided to walk there, try and save some money. I did take a bajaj or a tuk-tuk back, but I decided to walk there. I've been walking for maybe like 3 hours trying to go around and looking for this, okay? Put that in your mind. So I'm hot, I'm sweating, you know, my feet are hurting, my knees are hurting because I'm getting too old. And I'm coming on my way back. It's really crowded. I don't know, this area has been very crazy and chaotic lately. I'm not sure exactly why, but just put that in your mind. On top of that, we now have a checkpoint with an askeri who is deciding to make the point. Alright guys, can you see that? The moisture is back into the meat. The green peppers and onions are cooking down. We got tomatoes getting a little bit soft. We want these tomatoes to make their own juice, so we're going to cook it down a little bit more. But so far this is looking beautiful. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of water and let this cook fully down. Right, I added in a little bit of spice mixes, and as you can see the water is here as well. Again, do not say, well, this is not a traditional cheesesteak. This is not meant to be. But I added in a tad bit of tandoori spice for that smokiness. I added in a little bit of hawash Somali mixed spice, as well as some a little touch of cinnamon. Cinnamon adds a very nice earthiness to it. When you mix it all together, it's going to taste almost like it came off of a grill. You can see the tomatoes are already starting to get soft, so we're going to let these go ahead and cover them up and cook a little bit longer. Meanwhile, let's get to the rest of the story. Alright, so as this cooks, let's continue. So anyway, I set the scene for you guys. Sweaty, hot day, humid, can barely breathe, feet hurting. 2 kids by my side. We're hungry, we're tired, they're whining. I'm at a checkpoint, and most of the askeris know me. But this one guy, he's new, he's chewing fat, and I've already told you my position on that. I abhor it. I do not like it. I feel like it is a great destroyer of society. Anyway, he's chewing fat, and he's being aggressive with everybody. He's trying to overshow his power. So I'm like, all right, I already know I see what this guy is up to. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and try to, proceed calmly. So I'm at the checkpoint. My house is on the other side of the checkpoint. I have to enter the checkpoint in order to go. I go there and he's like, no, you have to go back. So I'm like, okay, let me just wait a few more minutes. So I just wait, not so long, like maybe a couple seconds or so. Then I try again. He's like, no, go back. I said go back. So I'm like, okay, I'm looking around, they have you pull your niqab up. So my niqab is up. And, it's crowded, it's chaotic. A lot of women are trying to get through. And, this guy is just not being very cooperative. He's being very aggressive with everyone. So I try, and third time I try to explain, okay, I live there. My house is there. Let me enter. I live over there. The other guys know me. I'm trying like that. So this guy decides that his response to me trying to go, he grits down. I can see his eyes get red. He bites his lip and he grits down and he raises up his rifle, and the point of the rifle, I don't know the official terms to this, but the point of the rifle pushes into my stomach. I can feel the pressure actually in my stomach to where my stomach sort of contracts. Not in a way that, is super painful, but that it is uncomfortable. It's a pressure that points into my stomach. And so now at this point, I'm like, oh, no, you don't. You do not do that in front of my kids. I'm not even afraid of the rifle. I'm just more furious. I'm upset that that it has come to this point. I'm tired. I'm hot. I'm like, this is unacceptable. You don't do that. And so, I'm getting steadily more and more angry as we go, but I'm trying to hold it in. The women are looking. It's like for a moment, we pause in time, even though things are all flashing by very quickly and I'm not even sure who's who. Faces just become a complete blur. I know you guys are enjoying this story, but we do have to check on our small simmering stew, which, oh my goodness, this looks amazing. Let's see if we can turn this around so you guys can see how good this looks. You can see the tomatoes are getting much softer now. They're almost going to be ready to be as a puree. See that there? Looks so delicious, right? You just want them to be a tad bit softer. Look at that. That's not really soft enough yet. So let's just let them get a little bit softer. And while we wait, we're going to continue the rest of the story. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, so the rifle's point is pointed directly at my stomach. My children are upset. I'm upset. Everything becomes a complete blur. A crowd of people and guys rush towards us, and one other officer pushes the guy with the rifle back, and he's like, yo, like, what are you doing? Calm down. What are you doing? And so, he's like, no, we know her. So the guy with the rifle laughs it off, and he's just like, oh, I didn't know that. And he goes aside, and I'm able to enter. But of course, by this, at this point, I'm completely upset. I'm furious. I'm ready to curse him out. I call my husband. I was cursing this guy out. Not my husband, the askeri, and I'm just like, how do they feel so entitled to do something like that? Just because you're holding a rifle, you think that it's okay to intimidate women with children? You don't even have any scruples about you that you would first try and think about the children. Or maybe ask someone first before you decide that your automatic reaction is to pull a rifle. I can understand if you even wanted to check me, if you wanted to make sure that, I really do live there. You could have done anything. But that your automatic reaction is to put a rifle into a woman's stomach while she has her kids with her, it's just completely emasculine. It's not masculine at all. It does not show that you have any real power. It does not show any kind of scruples or morals about you. It shows complete and utter ignorance. And I was furious. So I called my husband's family. I let them know what's happening. We called a few guys to come together. And, so you have backup. One thing about the Sultana revival is that you have to know who your real connections are. Being a Sultana is not being an independent woman that can do everything all by yourself. That's not what that means. It means understanding and knowing what you can do and what others can do for you. I mean, that's what queens and empresses do, right? If you think about any kind of sultana, Sultana Hurram, or if you think about any kind of queens, Cleopatra or anyone, they've always relied on their ministers, their councils, their advisors, their teachers, their tutors. They've relied on a circle of people to be around them and knowing exactly who they could trust and who they can't to take care of specific tasks. And so, yeah, just as a side note, know who you can delegate your tasks to. You do not have to do everything alone. You do not have to do it all by yourself. Make sure that you have people around you that you can trust. And if you're not sure if you can trust those people, then maybe you can't trust those people, because you would be pretty sure. You would know who you can trust and who you can't. You wouldn't have to doubt it. So think about who you want to be your immediate circle of people, family, or friends that you know for sure that you can trust and who would have your back and your support and support you through the challenges that we face in this world. Alright, so my kids are in here trying to steal a bit. I said wait. But as we can see here, the tomatoes have already cooked down, and this camera is not even doing it due justice. It is, in the camera you can't even see the brown color of it. It looks so delicious. Trust me guys, and it smells so good too. This is why that little bit of cinnamon is so important, and this is really a secret of mine. It's like a secret ingredient of mine, because a tad of cinnamon, not too much where it's overpowering. You gotta be very careful with cinnamon because it gets easily overpowering, but just a little bit of cinnamon will help with that kind of earthy, sweet, savory, almost Moroccan-like flavors. And so this is why I like to add it in everything. And then of course the Somali hawash and everything, we're gonna let that continue to cook down, and we're about to get our spinach started, and I'm gonna show you how to do it. Now this spinach is going to be the most important ingredient of this, so let's take a look. Now as you can see, the water has been completely cooked down, almost like a sukar here. And it looks so delicious, smells great. The meat is juicy and tender again. And if you want the healthiest form of this recipe, you can leave it just like that. Eat it with some flatbread and keep your spinach fresh. This is perfect. But of course, I'm going to make this creamy spinach, and so I'm going to add it into our pot. Yes, I did not wash the pan out because I want all that delicious meat juice and flavor to come into the spinach. So we have our healthy blood here. Again, the green peppers, the onions, the tomatoes all help with potassium, antioxidants, healthy blood flow, low blood sugar. And now here with spinach, this is the most important, especially if you're trying to balance it for PCOS, because this spinach is good for, is rich in iron. So it's good for iron deficiency, and it also helps with hormone imbalance. It helps to actually restore your hormones, create hormone balance. So that's why for if you have PCOS or anything like it, eating fresh spinach or even cooked spinach and cabbage and things like that is really good, because it really helps to restore that kind of hormone imbalance that could assist you with regulating your periods and of course ovary and uterine health. While the spinach cooks, Let's continue. So yeah, basically, we called our own guys. They showed up. They're like, okay, no, this is unacceptable. They, wrote his name down, asked us if we wanted to take it to the police station. I didn't want it to go that far, so we kind of just left it alone. He lied the whole way through. He's like, no, it was chaotic. It was crowded. I don't know exactly what happened. Like, he didn't know what he did. And he tried to say, like, I wouldn't lift my niqab, but that's not true either. My niqab was up, and the other officer vouched for that. So yeah, basically he tried to lie the whole way through. And in the end, because I didn't want to really take it to court, the court system's so, chaotic as well, especially when you have kids. It's going to be tiring. It's going to be a lot of back and forth, and it's not worth it. Had he maybe beat me with the gun or something like that, I would have proceeded, taking it to the hospital, taking it to the court. But in this case, we felt like it was best not to drag us and the children into that, knowing how heated, intense, and exhausting that could be. So, the guy really just got away with basically a slap on the wrist. They said, if he does it again, they'll take his gun away or something like that. To be honest, it doesn't seem like he got much of a reprimand, in my opinion. And so when I got back, I was very disenchanted. I was very disheartened by the entire system. I just say, this is the kind of corruption that you see way too often, not only in Somalia, but in Africa. And I know the rest of the world, police brutality is a thing in the entire, even in the West. But, it's very disheartening to see this kind of corruption. If police brutality happens in the West, there's somewhere you can go. But over here, there's not really much of a system in place that could protect, the civilians if they want to proceed. Obviously, you have your family, you have your interconnections there, which is going to be very important. But, just seeing how free all of this is allowed to be and open in public, it can be very disheartening, very disappointing. When I look around and I see how beautiful, Somalia is, the birds are free in the sky. You see the waves crashing against the shore. You see, the camels walking down the road, the flag flowing, through the breeze. The breeze is so cool and refreshing. And you just want the best for a Muslim country like this, alhamdulillah and all. And, we continue to make dua that Allah protects and preserves all of the Muslim countries. At the same time, when you know that this kind of corruption is allowed to be rampant, it can be very disheartening, You can see here, the spinach has been cooked down. Yes, it's not completely soft, but that's because if we cook it, it's going to continue to cook when we create the cream sauce. And we don't want it to become completely soggy and flavorless and, just limp. So we're going to actually let it stop cooking now and start adding the cream. So instead of adding a cream sauce, which is going to be rich in fat, we have here feta cheese, which actually adds a lot of flavor as well, but is really rich. It's really rich in calcium and vitamin B12. Calcium, which also builds the bones, and blood health, and B12, which really contributes to sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, really contributes to hormone balance as well, hormone functions. And we're going to add a tad bit of natural yogurt. I just noticed that said with sugar. That is not what I wanted to do. I wanted it natural without sugar. So maybe we won't be adding this. We'll see how we can balance this up. But the yogurt adds healthy fats instead of, fats filled with carbohydrates, which is going to contribute to high blood levels. Have it. Look at that. Creamed spinach with all the right ingredients, all the health, none of the guilt, no extra butters or fats. Just a great balance in just one little dish. Again, this is a dish that could also be eaten separately. So if you won't want any meat at all, you can again eat this with some bread, maybe even some quinoa, some rice, some couscous, whatever you'd like. Or you can eat it with only meat and none of, no kind of carbohydrates. This is great, and the flavor is very well balanced, very flavorful. We're going to go ahead and let this cook for a few more minutes, let it thicken up, and then we're going to start stacking this all together. While our lasagna is just getting put together, I'm going to go ahead and make some lemon juice. I have our fresh lemons right here. Somali lemons are so wonderful. They're like small and bitter and sour, but at the same time they're really, really juicy. So it makes the perfect lemon juice. So anyway, while I go ahead and squeeze this in here, that evening, pretty much the whole day, I was dealing with my residual anger issues and just basically, having doubts about Somalia and ready to just, shout at the world. Not like, where I was going to go do something crazy. I mean, like, figuratively speaking, I was just like, okay, I'm sick of it. I'm done. But that evening, I went out because I had something to take care of. And I saw some things that kind of calmed that fury or that fire down in me and made me think about the bigger picture. First, the Askeris that know me, they came, they apologized, they were very gentle, they're very understanding of like, okay, that shouldn't have happened. We are there, we weren't working that shift, but I will definitely make sure that doesn't happen again. And they were very understanding. And then, so one Askeri who was feeding a cat, the cat was just brushing up against his leg, and you know how indifferent cats can be. They have such an attitude. But, this one was just being so friendly. He was petting the cat. He was so gentle. And, just such a tender moment. I walked a little further down. I saw an old lady. She had her tusbah, she had her Quran. And she was sitting at a booth where she was just selling her remaining tea. And, some of the girls came to her, and they're just, they're kissing her hand, and, she's talking to them, she's giving them advice, she's calling them tender, names, and just, showing just a moment of love, care, and affection. And then I went further down, and I saw an old man, he's just relaxing there, he's just sitting back, again, reading his Quran, his cane in his left hand. You can hear the adhan in the distance. And, you hear him laughing and joking with the Askeri and, again, giving them advice, things like that. And I don't know, just looking around, looking at the animals, the families, the children playing in the road, the Askeris who are being nice and gentle and listening to the elders, it really puts into perspective that maybe this isn't a moment to shun the whole country. This is a moment maybe to think, to change how I perceive the events of earlier that day. Ooh, I told you. Look at this. You can already see, even the seeds are in it. You can see the juices just flowing already, can't you? Here is the finished product. Look at that. Does that not look delicious? Of course, it's not going to be like your regular lasagna, which is going to be overwhelmed with mozzarella cheese. But just look at this rich, vitamin-full, tender, flavorful lasagna here. Cheese stick lasagna. Fresh, refreshing lemonade. A balance of sweet and sour. And to end this story, I guess by the end of the day, I realized that Somalia is much more than its shadows. It's much more than just corrupt officers and maybe a dark past and a dark and a confusing or cloudy present. where we're still trying to figure out a balance between beauty and trauma. It all, I realized that I couldn't curse what happened, nor could I even curse Somalia. I didn't have to point fingers nor become a victim of the circumstance. I realized at that moment that there was much more to be had and to be held than just the anger and trauma of that morning. I realized that to be a sultana is to not shrink in the face of fear, but also to not succumb to it, to not become a victim of it, or even to let it change us and to bring out the worst and the anger in us. It is natural, of course, to feel fear or anger or even disheartened. But that doesn't mean that you have to fall down into the pit of despair, complaints, or negativity. And this is something that reminds me, that is a reminder to me first. It is something that I'm trying to work on, and I hope that we who are part of this Sultana revival can work on this together. It is really understanding who is in control of all of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that we can find a way to silence the pain and the anger and the fire in our hearts. When things don't go well, or when things are a little bit chaotic, that we know who we can turn back to, and that we turn first to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, relying on tawakkul and really mastering tawakkul and moving on furthermore with grace, letting our points be known and knowing who can protect us, understanding our councilmen, our connections, the ones that we need around us, the way that we express our needs, and it all at the end of the day, recognizing the bigger picture that is much bigger than your anger. It is much bigger than the moment. It is a moment for us to transform and to revive the Sultana within us, the Muslima within us, and understanding. Even in a place as imperfectly beautiful as Somalia, there's still a lot of elegance and beauty to be walked in with dignity and with iman. Thank you so much for joining me in this Cook With Me's kind of crazy story time. I know this is much longer than I expected, but I hope you enjoy it. If you want to try this recipe, let me know in the comments below, inshallah, and let me know how it goes if you do decide to try it. I hope that you will enjoy it. I cannot wait to dive in. The smells are intoxicating right now. I really can't wait. It's just such a symphony of aromas and flavors right now. The lemon juice as well. Make sure you add lemon juice to your daily routine. It is perfect as a cleanser. It uplifts the mood. It cleans the pores. It cleans the blood. And it balances hormones. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. And it's also really good for abdominal strength and abdominal health as well. So yeah, let me know if you enjoyed this. And if you would like to see more videos like this, also let me know in the comments down below. If you would like more tips, check out my book, Back Into My Mother's Arms, available now on Amazon. And yeah, I will see you in the next video, inshallah. Have a great and lovely day, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Alaikum.